As a theology professor, I'm often asked what are some of the best biblical commentaries. And so I thought I would do a talk on that. So we're going to look at different kind of commentaries, some of the top commentaries. Before we jump into the actual books, it's important to understand the different kinds of commentaries. And there are basically two or three, maybe different kinds of commentaries. In general, you've got kind of pastoral, devotional kind of commentaries. And I'm going to show you some of those. And then there are a little bit deeper commentaries that are not quite devotional. And then you have what are called critical commentaries. Critical commentaries are not critical of the Bible. They're called critical because they deal with critical issues, namely the original language and textual criticism. Textual criticism is the study of how manuscripts compare or how one reading compares to another reading that's a little bit different in another manuscript. There are roughly 6,000 Greek manuscripts. Some of them differ somewhat, not a whole lot, but there are some differences. And some of the commentaries talk about those differences. So what I'm going to do is go over like how I use my commentary. So I use a program called Logos Bible Software. And I only have half the screen showing for you because we're going to look at the commentary. But on the other side of my Bibles, and when they're linked, so if I open to John 1:1, both the commentary and the Bible will open to there. You don't have to get an electronic version. I know some people like the physical copies better. So the problem with that for me is that I don't have the shelf space for a jillion commentaries, and it's so much harder to go grab one, put it on the desk, flip through it. It's just so much easier. If I'm looking, this is called a layout on Logos that I call Bible and Commentary. And when I have the commentary section highlighted, I can just use my right and left arrow key to scroll through different commentaries. So for example, I can scroll through this way here and go through different commentaries. So what I normally do is if I want just a quick overview of a passage, one of the commentaries that I recommend, and one that I start with, has got the most bird's eye view. It's called the Bible Knowledge Commentary. Okay, now I will link to these in the description. Probably not every single one, but at least the top 5 that I think are good. And that's somewhat subjective, and there might be better ones out there, but the ones that I'm going to look at, the ones that I use typically, I'm going to show you. This is called the Bible Knowledge Commentary and Exposition of the Scriptures by Dallas Seminary faculty. And this is a very conservative dispensational approach to the Scriptures. So it's just very bird's eye viewish. It's not really very in depth. So if you look, for example, I'm just going to turn to John 1. I'll use John 1 as a kind of a paradigm for our examinations here. So it goes into the prologue, and then it gets into the actual text. So you can tell there's not a whole lot of depth here, but it is very conservative, it's dispensational. And even if you're not dispensational, it's good to be able to understand what dispensational commentaries is. So whatever you happen to hold to theologically, it's good to get other kinds of commentaries and systematic theologies, and that kind of thing, to just know what people say and how they think through these kind of things. So my first one, if I want a bird's eye view, is the Bible Knowledge Commentary. If you're wanting a bird's eye view, that's probably one of the best ones to get. Another one that I have is called the New Bible Commentary, and it's very similar. It's not quite, it has, I think, probably some more variation of people than the Bible Knowledge Commentary. It's called the New Bible Commentary. So it's got D.A. Carson, R.T. France, J.A. Moyer, and J.G. Wenham. So probably a little bit more variety in terms of the kind of people you have promoting or writing in it. Another one, as I'm just scrolling here, as I scroll through mine, I'm going into commentaries that are a little bit more and more technical, a little bit more critical in nature. So another one that I would suggest if you're just wanting to get not a real deep look at things or very critical is called the Tyndale New or Old Testament Commentaries. And so we'll look at John 1:1 here again. This is a little bit more in depth. So if you want to have a little bit more depth there than the Bible Knowledge Commentary, you're going to get more here. It's not overly technical, but it goes into a little bit more depth and description of the text. You can see that here. So that is a really good commentary. Another one here, and this is probably what I would recommend, either maybe as first or second. This is a lot more in-depth than the Bible Knowledge Commentaries. If you're looking for a one volume, then the Bible Knowledge Commentary is probably the way to go, because it's just one volume for each testament. If you're looking for more of an in-depth but still not overly technical description of the text, then the Expositor's Bible Commentary is very good. It is not horribly technical, also conservative though, still very conservative. So if you want a good conservative one, then the Expositor, but it's about 13 volumes, and it'd take up a good shelf. So you can tell here again that we're looking at some of the John 1:1, and we're looking at some in-depth here, but it's not horribly in-depth, so it's not overly critical. So if you're wanting a good in-depth one, it gives you some. You can tell here it gives you the Greek. Here's called a transliteration, when it gives you the Greek word in an English spelling. That's called transliteration. It does define it before it gives it to you right here. So this is really good. This is one of my favorite, is the Expositor's Bible Commentary. This is the revised. There are two. So make sure if you're going to get it, the revised set is the one that you want to get. And then moving along again into more technical waters. This is one of definitely one of the top finds I would recommend. I don't love the NIV translation. It's not one of my favorite translations, but the NIV application commentary is really good. And the reason I like it is because it gives you a good historical examination of what the text says, and it kind of bridges the gap for you, and then it emphasizes how do you apply this. So a lot of commentaries tell you about the meaning, and they don't always tell you how to apply it. And that's not wrong. It's not bad. It's just that a lot of commentaries simply don't tell you how to apply it. They're just trying to tell you what did it mean in the original context or the original languages. But the NIV application commentary focuses on that. It also gives you a lot of the background material. So if you look at John 1 here, well, let's look and see. It gives you the text, and then it gives you the original meaning. And then I know I'm going through this kind of quickly, but it gives you the original meaning. And I'll scroll down here to the side here. And then it gives you the bridging context, like how does this apply nowadays? How would it be understood nowadays? And then the next section is the contemporary significance. So that's the application of it. So if you're learning how to study the Bible, you look at the observation, what does it say? The interpretation, what does it mean? And then how do you apply it? And so this set is really good, and they really emphasize the application. This is the Preacher's Commentary, another good set. It's not overly technical. This one here is called the IVP New Testament Commentary Series. Good, not horribly in a lot of depth, or not technical, I should say. It's not overly technical, but it is a good book, or a good set of commentaries. And you don't have to get a set. If you're just wanting to look at different commentaries, sometimes you'll have a set of commentaries where one is really well known on a certain book. Like a commentary set might have one good book on John, for example. And so you might not want to get the whole volume. Now, I do, because I like being able to have them scroll through them easily as I'm researching something. But you might not want that. So you might want to say, hey, these are good commentaries on John. Here's good on Luke. How do you know that? Well, there's one other resource I'm going to link to in the description, and it's called Building a Theological Library. And it was written by Daniel Akin, who is the president of Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary. And it goes through, here are some of the good commentary sets. Here are some good commentaries on this book, whatever this book happens to be. And he also gives a lot of other discussions about kinds of books. Here are good systematic theologies to get. Here are good books on archaeology. Here are good books on apologetics. So if you're trying to figure out what are some good books on philosophy or apologetics, archaeology, systematic theologies, commentaries, then Dr. Akin has made a good list, and he put an asterisk by the really important ones and a double asterisk in front of the ones that he thinks you should have. Now, we all have points of view. So I have my point of view in theology. He has his. So be aware of that. All the commentaries do as well, as you probably know. So be aware of that. But I think that he has it's a good resource to have. It tells you how to start building. If you don't know where to start, it's a good place to explain to you. Here are the main books you want to look at. All right. So getting more and more into this is definitely a top 5. This is it doesn't have the name here in the title, but this is the New International Commentary on the New Testament. It also has the Old Testament. as well. This one is good because it's written by scholars and they wanted to do two things. They wanted to not make it overly technical in the text. As you can tell, you don't see a lot of, say, Greek in the text. You might not want that if you don't know Greek, and this is going to clutter up the text. But if you do want it, they put it in the footnotes. So I'm trying to find a footnote here. If you have the physical version, then you would see it at the foot of the page here. Here's a footnote here. It gives you a little bit more in-depth material. Let me try to find another one that has actual some original text or original language stuff here. Here's one. So here's a footnote. You can tell that there's a lot more. The notes are more technical than the actual body of the text. So this is a New International Commentary on the Old and New Testament. Very good resources. There are older. They replace the books a lot. So I have an older version of some book and then a newer version of certain books. So you can see I've got two here. One's a newer version, one's the older version. As I keep scrolling, getting more and more technical. This is the New American Commentary, also a very good commentary. A little bit more technical in the actual text itself, in my opinion, than the others. As I'm going along, I'm getting more and more technical as I scroll to the right. You can tell it's got a little bit more Greek. Again, these are the transliterations in the text. So this is the New American Commentary. It's got the Old and New Testament books in there. Scrolling right along, you get the Word Biblical Commentary. This is interesting. It's actually been argued that this is not really a commentary because it is so technical that it talks about mostly the language, and it is so critical in the original language, the textual critical type stuff, that it's not so much a commentary over the meaning of the text as it is more of just the understanding of the text itself in terms of its original language. I mean, it does give you good, I'll just say commentary on the text, but it's not as much as on the background or here's what the meaning is of this passage. It's more about the actual language. You can tell here, this is the actual Greek. It's not a transliteration. So if you don't know Greek, it should be more technical and might not be as helpful. The Word Biblical Commentary is very popular. When Logos sells them, some of their top five would be, I know the New International Commentary, Word Biblical Commentary, the Anchor Yale Commentary is something that they sell a lot of, and one of their top ones. The IVP Bible Background Commentary, if you're interested in looking more at the background, that's not as technical. Got that a little bit out of place probably. And then you've got another good one. This is just for the New Testament, the IVP Bible Background Commentary. This is a second edition. Sorry, that's not what I thought it was. The IVP Bible Background Commentary, second edition. And then this is just for the New Testament, and this is going to be the Baker Exegetical Commentary on the New Testament. Very good, very popular set. So here, again, this is going to be a little bit more in depth than some of the other ones we looked at in the beginning. Probably not as technical as some of the others. I might need to go reorder my books here. But this is also a very good and at least mostly conservative. Because you have different writers writing in these sets, you might get some that are more or less conservative. This set is the Pillar New Testament Commentary. Again, this is just a New Testament set. And so this will go into a little bit more in depth, trying to get down to the actual text here. It's giving a lot of prologue. Here we go. In the beginning. So it's giving you some prologue here. It does give you the transliteration, so it's not super technical, but this is another good set here. If you want a specifically Anglican set, then R.C.H. Linsky's is good. It's just called, they're just, I guess, it's the interpretation of whatever by R.C.H. I just call them R.C.H. Linsky's set. Very conservative. It's Anglican in its orientation. It does have a little bit more technicality to it, but it is very good. Black's New Testament Commentaries gives you the actual text here, and then it does give you a little bit of the original language there. So there's that one. And one that I've gotten somewhat recently, at least in comparison, is called this is made by Logos. I'm not sure actually if there is a physical copy. There may be. This is called the Lexham Geographic Commentary, and they have them on the Gospels, on Acts, and the Epistles. I'm not sure about the Old Testament. But what we take for granted is that we understand that we're reading the text but it was written for people around, mostly for people who understood that area, at least for some of these books. And so these books are commentaries mostly about the actual geography or what you would see in the area. So it talks about, if it mentions the trees or the fruit or the layout of the land, it tells you why. If a text mentions something that we wouldn't understand in 21st century America or wherever you happen to be, it will say, here's what was interesting, and that the writers may have taken for granted that we probably don't know. It'll explain the significance of the geography or things that were not so much with the text, but about the things in the text that were geographical in nature or importance. So this section is the significance of the Feast of Purim. It talks about that, the significance of the 38 years, the words and teaching of Jesus in the context of Galilee. So it's going to talk about the nature of Galilee and what's around there. So attention to the Galilean geography strengthens our ability to hear Jesus' teachings as his original audience did. So it says. So those are some of the commentaries that I have and like and recommend. As far as the top ones, I would say if you're wanting a bird's eye view, the Bible Knowledge Commentary is probably the best. Going from there, I would say the Expositor's Bible Commentary is very good. It's a lot more in depth. There's a whole shelf worth of books as opposed to just a couple books. Both are going to be very conservative, very evangelical. And from there, I would probably say something like the New International Application Commentary is very good. The New International Commentary on the Old and New Testaments. And then I would also say the Tyndale Commentary is very good. All these are really good, and they have their different uses and functions. But I would say, if you're wanting to go deeper in your Bible study, and I've said this in a different video, you need to be able to function somehow to some level in the original language. And it's not just to get the meaning, it's so you can unlock the resources. If you don't know something about the original language, especially if you are a pastor, if you're a pastor, or if you're a church leader of some regard where you teach, you need to be able to function to some degree in the original languages, because you want to be able to understand not just the language itself, but the textual critical issues of why does this manuscript say this word and these over here say those words don't say them at all. But you don't have access to the more critical and deeper commentaries if you don't have some functionality in the original language. So those are some of the commentaries that I like. I gave you more than 5. I think the ones that I gave you, the 5 would be probably either Baker Knowledge and or Expositor's Commentary. If not, that'd be the second one. New International Commentary, New International Application Commentary, probably the Tyndale Commentary, and then maybe the New International Commentary on the Old and New Testament. So what commentaries do you use? Leave a comment. If you're watching, if you got something out of this, please consider subscribing. And leave me a comment for what kind of commentaries you use. There's a lot more out there I haven't talked about. These are some of the ones that I typically use. So I hope you got something out of that. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time.